Oh, you've done it. Congratulations, you crossed a threshold. There's no going back. You're gonna have to find yourself a wise wizard in the woods to take you through this adventure because you're about to experience, I think, our first world premiere of World's Greatest Con. Hello, beautiful people. I'm Brian Brushwood. Today's office hours, day number 115, and I'm joined live in studio by my conspirator-in-chief, Mr. Justin Robert Young. What is up, J-R-Y?
It's good to be here, man. It's fun to show this side of the working relationship, not just goofing off.
Yeah,
but,
not just shenanigans.
Yeah.
Although I will admit that we haven't exactly completed multiple dress rehearsals on this just yet. We did have a loose idea of what we wanted to get done, though.
Yeah, and that is to play a brand new episode of World's Greatest Con, but give people, I mean, if you want to listen to it right now, go and download it on the app of your choice. You can get it on Apple Music, Spotify, podcatchers everywhere. Just search for World's Greatest Con. You'll find it there. Big picture of Brian.
Yeah, watch out for the trap, though. There's a trap. If you just type in World's Greatest Con in a search engine, it'll lead you to an old hosting platform that only has the first seasons.
That's so you can find it. I just go to the podcatcher. Go to Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you get podcasts and get it. And then what we're going to give you here is kind of some behind the scenes research notes that didn't make it into the show, a little bit of production stuff if you're interested in this kind of audio production, and then just other musings of how this episode came together.
Yeah, that's a fairly fancy way to say we're going to interrupt the program a lot.
We are, yes. If you want to actually listen to the thing we made, you can download it and listen to it and enjoy it. But this is going to be a little bit of, like Office Hours often is, some hidden wisdom.
Yeah.
But with the context of the thing.
Yeah. So imagine like you're going to watch a premiere of a Quentin Tarantino movie, but at select moments, Quentin Tarantino is going to just kind of lean over.
Look at how Leo is like, okay. Like, so he's like, I told him, stop. Okay, go through the door again, but this time it's a house on fire.
Yes, exactly. All right. Well, here, we'll bring in, we haven't figured out what the visuals should be for this. So for now, you guys feel free to chat it up. But I present to you World's Greatest Con, Rainmaker.
This is World's Greatest Con. I'm Brian Brushwood.
Hey, let's make a bet. How much you want to bet? Apparently, we made it exactly this far in before Justin had. Oh, actually, I have a thought on this.
Brian hates the fact that there's an old version of This Is World's Greatest Con on Brian Brushwood. I love it. There's something that is very familiar. It's like the smell of like the house you grew up in after you leave for college, of just the old version of This Is World's Greatest Con on Brian Brushwood. Brian records a new version every episode, and I take it and throw it away.
Well, and also I say in the notes, the first note is always sounds like this is probably a different take.
Anyway, all right,
we go. So, all right, here we go. Hold on, now I want to go back to the beginning again.
This is World's Greatest Con. I'm Brian Brushwood.
Hey, let's make a bet. How much you want to bet that I can make it rain? Here are the terms. In the next week, the next 7 days, there will be 1 inch of precipitation in your zip code. I mean your zip code, as in the zip code that you live in. Go ahead, look at the weather app if you want to. Take a moment, sit with it. It's a real bet. I, Brian Brushwood, am betting you, the listener, that in the next 7 days, it's going to rain. Now, here's the thing, though. If you agree to this bet, I do expect you to pay me. $50. My Venmo is at Brian-Brushwood. My PayPal is brian@schwood.com. There is no C in Schwood. But I'm me, and the show isn't called World's Fairest Bets. So as you're making your decision, you're probably wondering what the angle is. And yes, there is one. Actually, there are two. Angle number one, we do have some data, specifically when people tend to listen and from where. Most of you guys listen in the first 90 days, which coincides with winter and early spring based on our release schedule. Just so happens that if we really ramp up production on the podcast through the first quarter of the year, we would statistically see it rain in more places in the American Northeast and Midwest, which is where most of you guys live. Average it out on a large enough scale, we'd probably come out ahead. All right, are you in? $50. Oh, yes, there is the second angle. If it doesn't rain, I will not be paying you. I gave you my Venmo, but even if I could hear you yelling yours back to me, it wouldn't matter because this is a one-way proposition bet. I'm a rainmaker, not a gambler. And we don't owe any money. We simply deliver rain upon request. In the language of a con, a rainmaker is the closer. Certainty in an uncertain world. He doesn't promise effort, he promises outcomes. And when people are desperate, nervous, and afraid, a rainmaker can step in with confidence, timing, and just enough proof to feel real. He frames coincidence as skill and luck as leverage when success follows. But only when that success follows. That's when he takes all the credit and usually the money. And if the rain doesn't come, oh, that's not his fault. It's just the conditions just happen to be wrong. A rainmaker doesn't control reality. He controls belief. And belief, when the stakes are high enough, is often more valuable than truth itself. By the way, if you already agreed to our bet, no backsies. And don't feel bad, because you're in good company. The city of San Diego, California, at a crucial moment in their history amidst a historic drought, agreed to the very same bet. In 1915, a man walked into town and made a guarantee. He would fill that empty reservoir with rainwater. And once it was topped off, he was going to collect over $300,000 adjusted for today's inflation. Now, before you judge that city council, please know, this guy's not some kind of kooky religious leader. Oh, no. This is a man of science. This man promises to emit a secret blend of chemicals into the air. Oh, and he's got a list of references a mile long. This process has worked again and again. All right, maybe you could judge them a little bit. But get this, in San Diego, in 1915, it rains. And a few months later, the same man comes to the city council to collect. He gestures to the now full reservoir. He waves his hands at the now green hills of San Diego. But the council doesn't greet him with joy because he's no hero to them. To them, he may well be liable for murder. This is the story of a man who promised to do the impossible, the deadly consequences, and the decision by a city council to either pay him for a job well done or stiff him to protect the future of a budding metropolis. Cons don't fool us because we're stupid. They fool us because we're human. And the tale of Charles Hatfield the Rainmaker just might be the world's greatest con. It's 1915 and San Diego is ready.
Oh, got it.
Connected by rail, reachable by boat, and it's got an ideal year-round.
Whoa. Let's take a little trip down memory lane to right before the show when Brian said to one Justin Robert Young, hey, you want to? I know you've sent many links over, but this is the world's premiere, the world premiere of World's Greatest Con. Here, while you're grabbing that, let me answer. So I've been messing with Deconverted Man in the chat, who is asking all of the exact right questions, because those are all questions that we went through. It's like, oh yeah, old-timey rainmakers were fake, and new-timey rainmaking is a science. I definitely had heard that it was used as a weapon of war in Vietnam. Oh, if you could, Justin, send it to modernrogueshow@gmail.com. A weapon of war in Vietnam to cause flooding, and as we'll find out later, your tax dollars.
Oh, I guess that is, well.
Is that the one that got that? So, for anybody wondering, part of the problem, delightful
There's
thing.
some doodles. There's some doodles that didn't make it.
Some boodle doodles.
Some doodles. But that was pretty much it. That was the only.
That's the only minor change?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, listener, imagine, if you will, just a little bit of the doodle-dee-doo-doodle-dee-doo before the church bells. That's the only difference. Everything else, boy, this would be the way to watch to watch a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Exactly. Him being like, oh, shit, did I push the right update?
All right. We're good?
Yeah, anything in that intro? I really like the bet thing. We worked on the bet thing for a little bit.
The bet thing went through a few iterations because, like, what we wanted was, and tell me if this hits the same notes that you were feeling, Justin. We wanted a seductive, plausible, like, what's he up to? Like, it was Justin that that brought up that ultimately, World's Greatest Con, every single episode needs to happen in exactly one place. 1:30 a.m., 1:15 a.m., 2.5 pints in to a Guinness at an Irish pub or an English pub, right? An upscale English pub.
Yeah.
And so you want that kind of, that conspiratorial, hey, yeah, let me tell you, well, I don't know. And there's no other way to put it than this push-pull seduction that happens. And it was Justin that cracked the, hey, you want to make a bet? And then,
because anything after that is interesting.
right.
You're going to listen to it.
That's
Especially
what
when Brian's saying it, right? You know.
Well, and what I like is that we spend enough time, like, what's the vig here? And we give enough of a vig that does work in the aggregate if we were to get enough momentum. And then there's a little bit of a got something on your shirt frat boy moment of like, wait, what did you think this was? Hold on, knock that off. But it gets you into that headspace. And ultimately, as listeners are about to hear, this really is the proposition that the city of San Diego takes.
Yeah. There's the biggest challenge with any of these episodes is like, we don't want to make it too much of a book report. You know, there's plenty of podcasts out there that'll just kind of read you the history from the Wikipedia pages, and there's a worth to that. But what we believe we can do on this show is just kind of bring you in a little bit more and bring you in through Brian's expertise. And so that's where some of the like puckish
raconteur,
the raconteur element sort of comes in, because as you will hear, this story isn't quite what you think it is from the very beginning. And so we want to set you on an interesting first stone of your path.
And just to close the loop, Deconverted Man got exactly all of the right questions right. And all I did was say, is it? Does it? Will it? All of those. I haven't seen any that don't get addressed. So here we go. Let's say we are right here. Cons don't fool us because we're stupid. They fool us because we're human. And the tale of Charles Hatfield the Rainmaker just might be the world's greatest con. It's 1915 and San Diego is ready. Connected by rail, reachable by boat, and it's got an ideal year-round climate. But here's the best part.
Wait a minute. This isn't the...
You're right.
This... So, okay. Let me tell you another story about this
About
episode.
uploading the wrong episode.
But is this the one that went out? That got pushed?
I believe so, yeah.
Oh dear.
Oh well. We'll push new versions when I get home because all of this is being edited on my home computer, not my laptop computer.
Well, if everyone's going to listen to the wrong one and we're missing the changes that we spent the last week making,
Yeah.
I'll say we'll take a mulligan right now. This will be one for the history books.
Yep.
And Justin's going to run home and give us the right one in your feeds. But in the meantime, we're all going to go to worldsgreatestcon.com.
How the hell did that happen? Because this came off the Con Gang.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rainmaker 2.1. Wait. So what version are you playing?
Oh, you know what? The one that Oh.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
This is the one that
Well, now! Oh!
Oh my
What,
God.
does Justin need to run home?
Wait, let me just
What
search.
version are you playing?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, no, this is the link from 7 days ago,
Oh!
which means I still haven't gotten the
I sent it to both of your
Yeah,
emails.
it's not on either of them. No, the one that you sent me. Okay, yeah. Look, nope, that says 7 days ago. Oh, I think this is part of the enshittification of Gmail happening. Because when I search for Just Robert Young,
No, it's Justin at politics is what sent it to you.
well, that'll do her. Oh, hey, here's Rainmaker 2.1 .mp3. Mystery solved, y'all. Just gonna
Anyway,
forward
the
that
first
on.
part's the exact same.
Yeah, no, this is
Nothing changed in the first part, but there is a difference in when we come out of the world's greatest con title.
No, I'm just glad that we get to.
That I don't have to re-upload everything.
Yeah,
and-
or that nobody's hearing.
I was gonna say because I could have sworn that I gave you guys the most recent cut to proof,
Yeah.
and that's where I took it from.
Here, listen to this one. This is World's Greatest Con. I'm Brian Brushwood.
Son of a bee sting.
This is World's Greatest Con.
All right, so here we're
Success
up to.
followed. Now full reservoir
Yep.
for murder. This is the story
go.
of a man
Now
who
we get the
promised to
one
do
with
the
the
impossible,
boodles.
the deadly consequences, and the decision by a city council to either pay him for a job well done or stiff him to protect the future of a budding metropolis. Cons don't fool us because we're stupid. They fool us because we're human. And the tale of Charles Hatfield the Rainmaker just might be the world's greatest con. It's 1915, and you've just been elected to the City Council of San Diego. Your mandate is simple: growth. Everything is about to get better.
All right, pause it.
After 10 years of American grit,
This is actually it's kind of instructive for folks who want to understand the storytelling element of this. So what you heard before was what the previous version, and that these were some of the last changes that we made. But this was a great Brian note that we wanted to bring people in on a more personal level, and so the framing that we put throughout the episode that you'd heard was not in it before. It's how we knew that was not the right version, is just to put you in the perspective of the city council as we go forward. And it's a little thing that you might not notice if you're just listening to it, and it probably doesn't listen like anything right now, but especially if you're in an immersive setting, it's important for the decisions that are going to come up for you to look at it from your own perspective as opposed to just like a storybook.
Yeah, Gaming Matter says that it was way better, and it's one of those things where it's a minor change early on that just changes your sense of place as you go forward. So it's like for 5 whole minutes, you see things differently, knowing what your job is. So anyway, I'm glad you guys liked this change.
growth. Everything is about to get better. After 10 years of American grit, the Panama Canal is now open, connecting the Caribbean and the Pacific. That means shipping to and from the Golden State is about to explode. The state of California decides to celebrate. They'll have a World's Fair level exhibition. They'll show the world what the Pacific Coast has to offer. They'll entice tourists from around the world to see a state they can move to, a place they could start a business, a place they can call home. The state's gonna bless one city with a charter. San Diego scores that, we got a clear pipeline to convert tourists into taxpayers. And that charter goes to, you guessed it, San Francisco. Wait, what? San Diego can't compete with the money of the Bay Area. And so the Panama Pacific International Exhibition is approved and opens in 1915. Meanwhile, our nascent city of San Diego will forge ahead. San Diego is the first port of call in America once you get past the canal. We're the city that deserves the attention. So screw it. The city throws its own exhibition. They're not looking for spectacle, they're looking for intimacy. They want people to see themselves as future San Diego citizens. They take city land and build Balboa Park. They commission the construction of the California Tower, a new bridge, and they build an outdoor amphitheater to showcase the year-long beautiful weather. The Panama California Exposition opens right around the same time as its neighbor up to the north and is immediately outdrawn. 19 million people go to San Francisco, 4 million, almost 4 million, pretty much 4 million, end up in San Diego. But eventually, that massive spectacle up north has to come down. And since San Diego's construction was designed to be more permanent, I got an idea. Let's just extend the event. And so they do. 1916 is going to be a year without competition from San Francisco, and in a macabre twist of fate, domestic tourism is up since there's a little world war heating up over in Europe. This is the moment. 1916 is going to be the year. All's delightful on our Western Front. Just one little problem. San Diego, it's a bit
Before we get into the real
parched.
story, deleted lines that I didn't want to feed Brian is the only mustard here is on our hot dogs, but I didn't remember whether or not that was the thing that happened. One thing to remember about those expositions, 2 things that are totally foreign to us in our modern world, no highway system and no theme parks. The concept of theme parks were based on the World's Fair kind of exposition. So when these things were built, they were the closest thing that anybody was going to get to like a destination big trip. Like that, these were massive, massive events.
Yeah. People are correctly pointing out that there's a bit of reverb. That's because I got the mics unmuted. I'll mute our mics while we're listening.
San Diego, it's a bit parched, shall we say. It's in a massive drought. And with all the visitors, it's hard to sell a future in a town with water insecurity. The reservoirs are low, the rainfall's unreliable, and the city knows it can't reach the future it imagines without a miracle from the sky. A year earlier, the city council paid a whopping $4 million to buy into ownership of the local water company, the largest privately owned utility in the area. And while this gave the city the ability to own its own water demands, you could only make a system like this work if you have the rain. And unfortunately, San Diego don't. It's in the middle of a drought that's bringing back some of the worst memories of the late 19th century, back when the city's population faced a 7-year absence of a single drop of rain. At this moment, the lower Otay Reservoir is practically bone dry. In theory, this place could hold upwards of 15 billion gallons of water, but it's water that just simply hasn't materialized. If only it would rain. But there's a man, they say. A man who can change the weather. Why, in Los Angeles, he was paid to make it rain, and he did it on command. He's got testimonials from ranchers up and down the coast. Charles Hatfield, the Rainmaker. Hatfield isn't a carnival barker. He didn't sell himself with big gestures or wild promises. This guy speaks plainly, carefully, like a man who's considered every possible objection before he even arrived. This man tells the council, yeah, he could produce rain, real rain, of course, measurable rain. That's what we're looking for here, right? And he could do it using a special mixture of chemicals he'd release into the air. Yeah, he'd build these tall wooden towers, precipitation plants, he called them, and he could build them right around one of San Diego's largest dams. He didn't like the word rainmaker. He calls himself a moisture accelerator, a phrase that sounded just scientific enough to command attention without inviting too many technical questions. By the 20th century, the very idea of rainmaking felt out of touch with advancing scientific community standards. Hatfield's pitch is educated, patient. He explains evaporation rates, atmospheric conditions, talks about coaxing latent moisture to form around nucleation points so it can fall as precipitation. It isn't chemistry in the academic sense, and it certainly isn't meteorology, but it had just enough modern scientific flavor that the council thought they weren't dealing with a nut job. Now, of course, Hatfield remains vague about the process. He needs to protect his secrets. He never discloses the ingredients of his rain-making mixture, and he's careful not to invite too much scrutiny. What he does speak about are results, and he's got the receipts. Twice in LA, once down the coast in Bonesall, a few times for ranchers on demand in the Central Valley, and he has testimonials from all of them. And to San Diego, he offers the exact same offer. If I make it rain, you pay me. If I don't, you do not. What could be more fair? The council debated the offer. There were some that thought Hatfield was a fraud, a crank, a quack, a dreamer, maybe at best a confused lucky guy with some expertise. But the way Hatfield behaved, something about that surprised him. Something about that disarmed him. Charles's reputation was, by all accounts, fairly positive, but even still, no one expected him to come off as so professional. Charles also preferred keeping his contracts short and to the point. And so, amid some skepticism, it becomes clear that San Diego is leaning towards giving him a chance. The contract read as follows. If Charles filled the Morena Reservoir within a year, the city of San Diego would pay him to the tune of $10,000. If Charles didn't meet this goal, the city walked away scot-free, regardless of how much water was in that dam. What could be simpler? In terms of raw numbers, Charles would need to deliver about 10 billion gallons of water on top of the 5 billion that currently sat in that reserve. As one councilman put it, it's heads we win, tails he loses. That was all Hatfield needed. Curiosity or no, the council was taking every possible precaution to solve the problem. Is this a weird play? Yes. Is it speculative? Of course. Is it scientific? Who freaking knows? Curiosity or no, the council has to take every possible precaution to solve the number one problem they're going to face as the whole world is about to show up for a party. They need water. It's gotta rain. And so the Rainmaker got to work. Along with his brother Paul, Hatfield begins construction on a wooden tower near the shoreline of the Marina Reservoir. Nothing substantial, barely noticeable on the horizon. Just 14 square feet at the base. There was a married couple who lived on site. They were going to serve as the Hatfields' connection to the city. Weeks pass. The holidays are over. Christmas decorations come down. And Charles gets to work. From the top of the tower, he releases his chemical mixture. Vapors drift into the wind, the contents of which are a mystery to everyone but himself. But they were definitely not unnoticeable. According to the dam keeper, the chemical stench was so powerful that it reached his home a mile away. The odor was foul enough for one person to call it, quote, a Limburger cheese factory that had broken loose. In fact, it was something of an attraction. People began traveling out just to watch him. Curious neighbors wanted to see the man who claimed he could command the weather. Some laughed, some squinted at the horizon as if trying to witness the exact moment the clouds might obey. Even the skeptics couldn't resist checking the sky. And on January 5th, just a couple days after first releasing his secret spices into the air, it happens. Rain falls on San Diego. And I'm not talking about a drizzle or a polite afternoon shower. I mean real rain. Cold, steady, and hard enough to be noticed almost immediately by the city officials who had signed that contract. The newspapers mentioned it. Residents talked about it. That strange moisture accelerator out by Marina, that seemed to be doing something. Could it be that they were witnessing a breakthrough in atmospheric science? That storm put 48 million gallons of water into the reservoir. Of course, that's far from the 10 billion gallons Charles Hatfield had promised, but it was enough to get the ball rolling. For you on the city council, things are looking great. Crazy man goes up on the horizon, builds a tower, gray clouds coming in. I wouldn't blame you if you're smiling. Enjoy it, because it's not going to last for long. Charles Mallory Hatfield, born 1875 on a farm outside.
I saw a question in there about stock music. So it does come from a service. The one thing that we did a lot in this episode, though, is to pull apart the stems. And so you'll hear a lot of different parts of the song coming in and out. And I find that especially for podcast production, it's a lot easier because a lot of any kind of service or library or anything like that, they oftentimes, I mean, a song can be for a million different reasons, and audio production for podcasting tends to be a little bit more spare because your brain only has so much space to like deal with information, and you want the words to be heard and understood.
Well, and especially if a song is interesting enough to give a sense of place. Like, I mean, at this point, the theme that we use for the intro segment with the boodly-doo-loos, like that swell, like we all know the rhythm of that, where we get where we are. But of course, it is an attention-grabbing space. But in the case of like this episode, the same theme shows up under multiple faces at different times. And
Yeah.
then let's say you don't want to go all the way back to pulling someone's attention away from the words that are being said, but instead you just want to remind them of this place. Then, you know, just the bass groove shows up, or just a little bit of that rhythm.
This song that's about to be played, the original song was like very like kind of tub thumping country, and I wanted to create a little bit of that because certainly California at that time was a lot more country than people understand it to be today. But I didn't want it to be like full backwoods country bear jamboree.
Right.
So like we're just pulling out certain instruments to make it feel a little bit more Civil War documentary and a little less like hee-haw.
Yeah. Also, just to close the loop on it, what I loved was seeing the comments say the exact right things where it's like, it's heads we win, tails you lose, you know?
I love,
It's
yeah, this
win-win.
is great because you guys are literally asking the questions that we were hoping people would be asking in their heads.
At
So,
those exact moments. And also it does, with the trappings of seeing it from San Diego's point of view, I mean, I'll ruin it because we're Quentin Tarantinoing this in the middle of the movie. But it's like, I do love the fact that it's the exact same bargain that sounded so disappointingly stupid when Brian offered it at the beginning. But
Yeah.
it just feels different. And like, what do you got to lose? Yeah.
Charles Mallory Hatfield, born 1875 on a farm outside of Fort Scott, Kansas. His dad's a Quaker and a sewing machine salesman who travels constantly and drills his children in persistence, persuasion, and self-reliance. Charles's childhood isn't marked by tragedy or dysfunction. If anything, it's almost aggressively normal. Chores, church, school, and a dad who insists that there's always one more sale if you just knock on just one more door. Picture Charles as a kid, fascinated by his mother's tea kettle, watching as the steam attracts water vapor. Huh. If you could control weather on a stove, why not in the air? This epiphany, this moment, according to Hatfield, is the first step on his quest to find a chemical compound that could effectively magnetize, maybe even generate clouds. Hatfield says he would read whatever material he could find about atmospheric science, which in the early 1900s is a mix of legitimate meteorology, experimental chemistry, and outright folklore and speculation. But he'd go to the library again and again, each time finding different chemical combinations to try at home. He'd experiment and jot down his findings. Let's see here, electricity, evaporation, temperature gradients, time of day, lunar cycle. Back to the library, more mixtures, more experiments. Eventually, he says he finds 27 different chemicals that he believes would attract moisture in the atmosphere so it could be released as rain. He built small towers, burned his mixtures, recorded the results, and refined his formulas. Now, of course, none of this would satisfy a modern-day scientist, and to be honest, it also did not satisfy the old-timey scientists. But it did satisfy Hatfield. He believed, genuinely believed, that he was onto something, even if nobody else could yet see it. Finally, after months of experimentation, he shares his findings with his family. According to Hatfield, he manages to directly pull in an inch of rain in an otherwise hot Los Angeles day. To Charles's mind, he'd found his calling, but it was far from his profession. No matter how much Hatfield's father believed in these experiments, he relied on Charles as a salesman, working from farm to farm, county to county, pitching those sewing machines just like his dear old dad. And it's during this time that Hatfield develops the skills to sell his new passion. He learns to read rooms quickly, to soften objections before they're spoken aloud. And most importantly, he learns to hold someone's attention long enough to make an improbable idea sound possible. By the time Hatfield is a full-grown adult, he has a zealot's faith matched with the persuasiveness of a traveling salesman. And so he starts offering his services to small towns and ranchers, usually for modest fees or contingent contracts. To put it plainly, if it rains, you pay. If it doesn't, you don't. And from there, the shadow grows. The story of a tall, quiet man who climbed a tower, released some vapors, and made water fall from the sky. And when the rain falls, so does the coin. 1,000 here, 4,000 there. Hatfield kept meticulous logs, collecting his testimonials like trophies. And he presented himself not as a magician, a wizard, or a shaman, just a simple technician with one weird trick: a moisture accelerator. A man of science. So far, too precious by half. I don't know about you, but this whole goody-goody story, which comes entirely from Hatfield, by the way, makes me a little curious. Sure, you got a kid who's legitimately into weather patterns, has to work as a salesman on the side. To hear Hatfield tell it, this is the story of somebody who truly thinks he can make it rain. But let me just throw this out there. What if he doesn't so much know how to make it rain, or even believe he knows how to make it rain? What if the code he cracked was on how to take credit for the rain? What if all that time in the library is spent learning about cyclical weather patterns? The pendulum swing of drought and rainfall that gets lost in the day-to-day, but is clear as day when you're looking at historic almanacs stretching back for decades. What if, just saying, what if Hatfield knows that he could go to a town where historically rain is due to fall? At that moment that just happens to historically be when citizens are the most desperate for it. He makes a promise that is genuinely out of his control, but is likely to happen. What if what he's pulling is the equivalent of a Las Vegas card counter, only gambling when he knows the deck is stacked in his favor? Feels like you'd have a pretty good conversion rate on that. Then what's that tower for? I mean, mathematically speaking, that tower doesn't get you that much closer to the clouds, does it? If you're just taking credit for the rain, it seems like you could do that without carpentry. But Hatfield does make sure to legit build the towers, and he legit does release something into the air. Something so pungent that it can be smelled for miles around. It's like a press release, making sure that no one is confused as to who is responsible for what comes next. Now, this is just a jaded magician / podcaster talking here. But what if the mixture wasn't so much optimized to coax rain from the sky, but hypothetically was designed to cement the attention of his audience? Make that association, big rain clouds, come after the big old stinky cheese fart. Is Charles Hatfield a con man who saw a hustle by understanding just enough about rain patterns to come in and cash in at just the right time? Or is he a true believer? Misguided or not, somebody who genuinely thought he had discovered the new frontier of atmospheric science. Either way, the facts are plain. Hatfield did put his vapor in the air, and sometimes, like in San Diego, it rained. Now, the problem for Hatfield in our story is that it doesn't stop raining. By January 12th, things are looking good for Charles's chances to fill that reservoir. The total runoff at Marina is at 186 million gallons for the season, more than double what was produced a year before. And almost all of that rainfall made its way.
So we're about to get into a really crucial part of the story. Production note. If people are tired of production notes, and I'll stop. But
no! Are you kidding me? This is literally this is the only time and place you're gonna get this.
I'm gonna get a chance to do it.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. No. I mean that they get to hear it, not that you get to do it.
So, one of the things that you will see is that it's important to understand exactly how much it rains. And we had mentioned before pulling out stems. So you are dealing with just one part. And I've just realized people don't know what stems are. Like in a song, you've got the vocals, the bass, the guitar, the synth, whatever. A lot of these services, online libraries or AI stuff, you can bust out your stems and then take whatever you need. we needed a way, especially because we knew that was going to be an ad break for a lot of podcatching, like programmatic ads, to just have a thing that feels like, okay, we're back in the show. And initially, I had a thunderclap there, but we had used the thunderclap a lot, and it was starting to feel a little cheap. And I didn't want this moment to feel cheap and needed to feel like kind of reverent, because you're going to see where the story goes. But we busted out the main theme, the stems from the main theme, found a orchestral part, and then layered that in with the rain. So now you're like, okay, your brain immediately goes to like, ooh, like in 2 seconds, like it's been raining a while and people are sad, which is good because that's the mood that the story wants to put you in.
Yeah, I don't know that we set out. World's Greatest Con is one of my favorite things I've ever been part of, partly because it feels the most like a thing that was discovered at mature storytelling chops. Like you and I both have had an intuitive understanding that the words are always part of the story, but stories are told kinesthetically, visually, or audio simulations of visual phenomenon, or, and that you can pre-wind certain expectations, or that we notice the shift to minor key or whatever those things are.
Yeah, there's like a moment. I think the cleanest way to describe it is like when a character is going to come to another character in a movie and they're going to give them good news, but you don't hear good music behind them. Mm-hmm. Or even worse, you hear like a discordant, like bing, and you're like, ooh, oh no, like now this is bad. Like I'm hearing, I'm hearing good things, but I'm feeling bad things. Like this is like I now want to run into the characters and be like, bad things are coming. How do you know? I heard the music. Yeah. Like there's just kind of something to that. One more thing at the very beginning, and if you re-listen to it, you'll hear it and this is just my own production philosophy, is like when in doubt, if you can think of a cinematic way to tell a story, then tell it as if all you needed to do was add the visuals. And the temptation when you first start doing stuff like this is to kind of make it very sound effects heavy, of like, he opened the door, like, and then started the car. But when Hatfield first comes in, we have the like an interesting person is walking in, and then we do the steps, but it stops as Brian says he starts talking. And I wanted to do that as a way of like the introduction, that in your head he has like walked to the front of the city council, he has stopped, and now he starts talking. Yeah.
And again, the chat room is exactly keying in on themes that we'll be exploring here. But here we go. The total runoff at Marina is at 186 million gallons for the season, more than double what was produced a year before. And almost all of that rainfall made its way to the coast over just the last 4 days. Now, either Charles was the madman responsible for such a massive increase, or the lucky beneficiary. Either way, his efforts seem to be working. Now, that doesn't guarantee that Marina is going to fill in time, though. The city council, meanwhile, is thrilled. Imagine betting on the very best possible outcome. Free rainfall that fills up the reservoir, but not enough to hit the payday? How perfect would that be? You'd get nearly all the water you want for a total bill of $0. Except the rain kept coming. It didn't stop on January 13th. It didn't stop on January 14th. This rain wasn't stopping anytime soon. That's something important that could get lost in a story like this. We live in a totally different world of weather warnings. The folks in San Diego, citizens of 1916, they didn't know about Doppler radar systems. That didn't become commonplace until the mid-20th century. The modern National Weather Service wasn't even established until the 1970s. And of course, nowadays we have their watches and warnings beamed to us live on our phones. But to be back in San Diego, back in the days of this story, they've got barometric pressure and wind direction. That's it. They have no idea and no way to know how long this storm's gonna last. And so, the rain keeps falling. Hardware stores sell out of buckets, raincoats, boots. By Friday evening, the city feels deserted. All the muddied streets render those newfangled automobiles useless. And another half-inch of rain splatters onto the city sidewalks that night. Back out at Marina, Charles and his brother pass time with rounds of checkers. While an additional 10 million gallons of rain flows into the reservoir, another 1.2 inches of rain had fallen in just 8 hours. Ask anyone in San Diego, and it was not a question. Oh, that's Hatfield's rain, all right. You could practically taste the cheese stink on it. What seemed to me borderline inevitable, a drought destroying the chances for San Diego, is fading away like a distant memory. Soon, when all the attendees of the big expo show up, sure, maybe San Diego would be a bit waterlogged, but drought wouldn't be on their mind. Better a few puddles than water insecurity. People traveled out to the reservoir with umbrellas and slickers just to watch the levels rise. Newspapers ran hopeful headlines. San Diego finally had water. But as storm after storm continued, the mood began to change. Sunday's paper ran a letter to the editor that read just 8 words. For the love of Mike, call him off! Forecasters said that the rain could end as early as Monday, but even that seemed too late. Overnight, 4 different telegraph companies lose the connection between San Diego and Los Angeles. Those down lines meant that information was becoming difficult to exchange, potentially life-saving information, like evacuation orders for the people about to be flooded. And yet the rain kept coming. At 2 a.m., the San Diego River floods, sending water rushing towards Mission Valley. By 4 a.m., the first floor of a fever hospital north of the Tijuana River is 7 feet deep with water. And yet the rain kept coming. By Monday, wooden structures are splintering and collapsing. Rail lines are washed out. Livestock disappears into the current. Fields of crops are transformed into seaweed in all but appearance. Houses, literal, complete houses, float down the valley, never to be seen again. Downtown, people are piling into canoes, attempting to find anybody still clinging on for survival and bring them hope. Some are found, others are lost. At a dog pound, all but one pup is washed away, never to be seen again. Back at Marina, the rain gauge shows a staggering 910 million additional gallons, just shy of 10% of the entire amount Charles needs in just the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, way up in the hills, Marina is now at over 6 billion gallons filled. I like to imagine Charles is about to say "king me" when he thinks to himself, oh boy, San Diego. What were you thinking not believing in me, Charles Hatfield? A little more chemicals, another round of checkers, and then, let me check in, maybe a phone call. Because Charles is on his way to pulling this thing off. He's about to earn $10,000. There in the middle of this storm, he calls the water impoundment office. And when somebody answers, he doesn't take credit for the flood. He doesn't say, "You're welcome." No magnanimous gestures at all. Instead, he promises that he's going to show San Diego, quote, real rain. And he slams the phone down. One week later, January 19th, a beleaguered San Diego continues to deal with this persistent rain. It's not as heavy now as it had been, but it is unrelenting nonetheless. Always just enough rain to prevent any true cleaning up. People died trying to save their houses. Others fell over capsized boats and water so deep they couldn't tread. The city's water system now has 7.6 billion gallons of water that wasn't there before. And there's another 8.5 billion gallons up in Morena. Even though inflows are at 90 million gallons per hour, the reservoir is still only half full. Nearby, other dams weren't so lucky. The Sweetwater Dam had already pushed well past capacity. The lower Otay Dam was in a similar spot, capable of holding 11 billion gallons, but was already at 9 billion. This is fine, as long as the rain stops soon. And just like that, it did. On Thursday, January 20th, San Diego saw its first burst of sunshine in weeks. Farmers, breathing a sigh of relief, finally start to tally up the damage to their farms. Homeowners begin preparing their repair lists. One man managed to float a loose grain silo over a mile downstream back to his ranch. And travelers, including those precious tourists who were coming out for the big expo, managed again to reach the train stations in and out of town. If you've ever been through a bad storm, like a blizzard or a hurricane, you know this feeling, that reassuring first blast of sunshine. You feel those fists relax, the knuckles not so white. This is that moment, that first time you could feel yourself let go. Take a deep breath. It's a big feeling, allowing that anxiety to leave your chest. And Thursday evening, as the sun set over a waterlogged San Diego, it felt like, for the first time, there was hope. And by Friday, it felt like a new chapter had begun in the city. But come Monday morning, the Hatfields are still a billion or so gallons away from their big payday. And so it's back to work they go. They replace some equipment that had gotten a bit rusty, and yet again, another plume of chemicals rises to the air. Cheese stank goes up, everyone smells it, and just like clockwork, gray clouds start rolling on in. The rain starts around 7:30 p.m., Wednesday, January 26th. For some San Diego citizens, this will be the last rainstorm they ever see. Alarms sound across the neighborhoods. A dam in Balboa Park overflows, and they have to manually collapse it to let the floodwaters slowly rush into the streets instead of breaking all the infrastructure. And it only gets worse from there. Wind picks up across the region. In Mission Valley, one of the region's main bridges is seen floating down the rushing waters of the San Diego River. A railway bridge follows soon after. Sweetwater Dam, already past capacity, fills with new rain so quickly the spillways become completely ineffective. But it was the lower Otay Dam, the same one that was bone dry a month ago, that packs the killing blow. With rain pouring down, the lower Otay Dam fails, unleashing a catastrophic wall of water that rips through farms and settlements with a force that no one had imagined. According to conflicting reports, upwards of 50 souls don't survive to see the morning. The damage is staggering. $3.5 million, over $100 million today. Oh, the city had water, yeah, but at a cost so high. And in the middle of that chaos, of that destruction, of that loss of life, perched up in the horizon, playing checkers with his brother, is Charles Hatfield. Because, oh yeah, while those other dams failed and those other people died, Morena surpassed 10 billion gallons. Set a new record. Gonna get himself a sweet little $10,000 payday in the process. When the storms finally subside, for good this time, after nearly a month of punishment, the question that no one had seriously considered suddenly lands on your agenda. The matter of payment to one Charles Hatfield.
Yeah, so Not Scary Steve in the chat brings up he said, conflicting reports over 50 souls.
Some said 20, some said 50. We're not going to go calling people in 1916 liars.
Well, and also it's
you know.
like present tense unfolding stories. There's waves of expected things, and so to share the panic and confusion of the moment, we express that, man, this is not the real number. But
yeah, I mean, look, we could have just said 50 and it could have just been what it is. We try.
That's lazy.
Yeah, we try to do our best. We're not, straight out journalism. We are storytelling, but we want to maintain your trust and that you guys aren't believing that we're just out and out making things up. So there's a little bit of qualifying language there. One thing that, again, goes back to the initial framing of you being on the council and how it interacts with the intro. So the intro is, hey, wouldn't you feel like a dope if you made this deal with Brian where it was a one-way bet where he said it was going to rain and you had to pay him if it happened? Now you actually have to make that decision if you are in the scenario of the city council, but you have all this other weight to it. So I was very, very proud of us and Brian specifically to come up with that solution. It was very, very elegant, and I was really glad, especially where it landed here. But to your points, guys, this is where we get to what you guys have been talking about from the very beginning. Exactly how much cloud seeding and rainmaking really exists in the modern world.
Yeah. Also, somebody's saying they're not seeing it in the podcast feed.
Keep looking.
Keep looking. Here it comes. Here we go.
While Charles is on his way to your office, let me ask you a present tense question. Do you think cloud seeding is real? Like, have we just cracked the science since old-timey days? Because on the one hand, this might be the story of a lone nut taking credit for a giant storm for $10,000. But what if I told you that globally, we still spend $500 million every year doing exactly this? We are cloud seeding. We are making it rain. Or at least we're spending the money like we are. Per the GAO, Utah appropriated $5 million for cloud seeding. Every year, Colorado spends $1.5 million. Wyoming spent $320,000. Just last year, North Dakota spent $800,000. So what are they buying? Seasonal reports indicate that we get a 5 to 15% increase in precipitation. That's not bad, right? Usually when we're talking about cloud seeding, we're talking about creating a nucleation point. All you got to do is scatter tiny particles, usually silver iodide, into a cloud, and each of those particles give moisture something to cling on to. That nucleation point begins to grow, the droplets form, they freeze, and they fall. Either as rain or as snow. Might not be weather on demand, but it's definitely weather nudged in the right direction. We know for a fact that the UAE launched a whole fleet of cloud seeding planes to try to manipulate and twist the weather as much as it could. China famously seeded clouds just before the 2008 Beijing Olympics, and of course, Colorado and Nevada do it for snowpack. In fact, if you live anywhere in the American West, there's a non-zero chance you have personally benefited from artificial precipitation without ever even realizing it. But here's the rub. Does it work? By which, what I'm trying to ask is, does it work? Like, to clarify, cloud seeding. Does it work? In a lab, it's simple. We can create an A and a B condition, see the difference, see the different results. But out there in the sky, sure, we did a thing and it rained. Did the one cause the other? Is it all weather theater? Just backed by inconsistent data and optimistic interpretations of storm patterns? Are we spending billions of dollars trying to answer a simple question? How much rain can we actually make? When truthfully, the answer is, Nowadays, meteorologists argue over the methodology, the math, the controls. They run computer models and statistical comparisons, way more fancy and sophisticated than anything that could have happened back in 1916. Knowing that you cannot know, that remains stubbornly familiar. And every time the debate resurfaces, Hatfield's ghost shows up again. More than 100 years after Charles was in his rainmaking prime, none of us know if we're making the weather or just getting paid to take credit for it. Take our old friend San Diego, for example. In 1990s, you're not going to believe this, guys, San Diego was experiencing a drought. And stop me if you've heard this one before, but in 1990, they hired somebody who claimed they could increase the chances of precipitation. San Diego hired Dan Keaty to fly a twin-engine plane over the city and seed the clouds. Now, this is almost modern-day San Diego, so they didn't part with some foolish $10,000 of 1915 money. Oh no, that would have come out to around $130,000 at the time. The smarter, wiser San Diego paid Dan Keaty $150,000. But that time, at least nobody died.
So this is the most agonizing part, and this is kind of like the by design way that we tell stories is, oh man, if the chat room is anything like me, all I want to do is spend the next hour in the weeds talking about what part is and isn't and explaining further, because like in fact I can't even resist. I'm gonna right now pull up a map of Google so that I can explain as best I understand it what's happening. And we'll go to Denver. There we go. So if you look at Denver, so picture all of this area is saturated. It's like close to snowing, but not actually snowing. So no, you can't cause more water to show up there, but you can nudge where it tends to fall. And so that it does, like maybe it snows today, maybe it snows next week or whatever. Maybe eventually it blows away. But if while the water is over Aspen, over Vail, all of that stuff, you throw some silver iodide up there, then yeah, it's worth the $5 million a year that they spend on it, because they can reliably show not that more moisture falls, but that more moisture falls where they need it during the season that they want it. Is that a fair way to put it, Justin?
Yes. And
and nobody knows.
Does it?
I know. What are you gonna go a year not seeding it and find out?
I mean, yeah. Like it's everybody's like Harp and seeded storm almost took out Galveston. Maybe. Yes, maybe. Like but did it? Like, we certainly spend money like it does. We certainly believe there is more science to it than what happened with Hatfield. Hatfield was lighting his farts, his stink bombs, and like alleging that they get to the clouds, right? So now we're up in the clouds. We're dropping stuff directly into cloud line that we now have Doppler radar to understand where moisture, latent moisture is. But if we didn't,
well, and
what
also,
would happen?
And think about this, like Beijing before the Olympics, it's like if I were a bureaucrat in Beijing before the Olympics, I would spend other people, the government's money, to do everything so that I could not be blamed if it did or didn't rain at the right time, blah, 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 blah,
Beijing
blah.
tried to seed clouds so it would clear smog out of Beijing. They also shut down all factories for 3 months. What do you think reduced smog?
Right.
So, yes, there was reduced smog for the Beijing Summer Olympics in 2008, but the question is exactly how much cloud seeding did it. So, look, our point is not to make a settled decision, but we wanted to present it in the way that we understood it, which was Does it?
Well, and agonizingly, this is where we have to nudge everyone like away, back on me, stories over here.
I guess our larger point is we're closer to we have more money going into this than ever. Mm-hmm. And so whatever judgment you have on the city council for making the deal or even thinking about paying him, just understand we're spending so much more money on it, and we are closer to Hatfield than we think.
Right.
That is our point as a podcast.
Which again preserves for us the last remaining black box that we explore, which is what's going on inside that dome.
Which brings us back to the matter of Mr. Hatfield. It's February 1916, just days after the floodwaters have finally receded. Charles Hatfield walks into City Hall.
One last thing, just music-wise, theme-wise, this is the last major theme that we play. I don't know if you guys noticed, a lot of story about rain like piano. That was a theme throughout the entire episode. A lot of like in different kinds of things. This is probably the most aggressive, but here we go.
Yep. By the way, since we're coming up on the end, another production note, like we make sure to experience the story in as many different modalities as possible because we're playing for a lot of audiences at the same time. We're not just playing with, for example, what you guys are getting, the real-time, old-timey radio sitting, like we want to pack so much fidelity that you could sit cross-legged and be thrilled, you know, or on a drive, listen and give it your full attention and not, besides the road. Or we're aware that people listen to stuff the way I do at 1.5 times speed or 1 1/4 speed. Or if you're an effing monster like Tom Merritt, 3x speed. That's horrific. But we also do it while we're doing other things. So I listen to it with full attention, going out to lunch attention, and so all of those nudges, sometimes they read as, oh no, are they labored? And then you hear it in another context and you're like, oh, I wanted more of that. And so we try to calibrate somewhere in the middle.
My only note, look, you can listen to it in whatever speed you want. As soon as I hit publish, this is all for the rest of the world and it's not for us anymore. Just don't tell me. Just don't tell me.
Don't disrespect this man.
You can say that you listen to Great Night at 2x speed. You can say that you listen to PX3 at 2x speed. Okay, that's up to you. For the love of God, like just you can do whatever you want. Just please don't tell me.
What do you listen to Pink Floyd The Wall at 3x?
There's a lot of timing. There's a lot of thought into timing that goes into this as opposed to the more talk radio stuff. That's all I would ask is just please don't tell me.
Yeah.
Keep it out of my face.
Calm as ever and asks to be paid. The council hesitates. I mean, they just spent the last few days surveying the damage to property, both public and private. They're in the middle of processing the human loss of life. And now there's this Hatfield guy looking to get paid because he believes he engineered a once-in-a-century flood? Come on. Timing aside, there's a legal question here. Because if the council pays Hatfield, then the council is on the record admitting that he created the storm. And if he created the storm, then every lawsuit from every farmer, landowner, business destroyed in that flood could point to that payment as proof of the city's negligence. Proof that the city had hired him knowing that he would alter the weather. Their contract would become Exhibit A in a tidal wave of liability. And the city's lawyers agreed, if you compensate the Rainmaker, you own the rain. Okay, says Hatfield. I could see it's a little bit complicated, a lot of ins and outs and what have you. If you're worried about the damage done by my heroic filling of your reservoir, then let's just get a judge to rule on it. Yeah, let's have a judge decide if I'm liable. The city officials decline. They don't want a ruling. They want this to go away. Here's the official line. That rain, they decide, was natural. Your tower did nothing, Hatfield. I hope you enjoyed playing checkers. Your chemicals were not just stinky, they were useless. your reputation, your process, your claims, all irrelevant. You see this damage? That was an unrelated act of God. Yes, an unrelated act of God that nobody could have seen coming. And also, legally, we never executed the contract, so hit the bricks, Chuck. Hatfield, reputation on the line, kept pushing. He offered to take less than $10,000. Call it a bulk discount. Maybe $4,000? No. Attempting to save face, Hatfield went to the press. He explained he's just a humble moisture accelerator, not a dam reinforcer. The city made a deal and they should pay up. Eventually, he sued the city. The city sued back. The ensuing legal drama lasted until 1938, 22 years after the rain fell. The eventual ruling? Hatfield didn't cause the rain and therefore couldn't be held liable. And yet by then, the real goal of the city council had long been achieved. San Diego was an honest-to-God boomtown. From 1916 to 1938, they doubled in population, thanks to a naval expansion, an interwar boom, and a New Deal infrastructure build-out. In fact, in 1937, as a pick-me-up during the Great Depression, the city looked back to the good old days, and they hosted the California Pacific International Exposition in Balboa Park, a deliberate sequel to the 1915 event. Many of the Art Deco buildings constructed for that expo are still standing today. As for Hatfield, he kept on keeping on, going city to city, traveling internationally, as far as Canada to Honduras. By the time he died in 1958, he claimed he had successfully made it rain over 500 times. But of all of them, San Diego was his masterpiece. Did he make it rain? How can you tell? Critics point out that it's impossible to know since Hatfield always showed up right at the beginning of seasonal rainy periods. But then again, if it was raining, you wouldn't call the Rainmaker. So this is the problem with Hatfield. Is he a con artist or a true believer? If he's a con artist, then he knows that he was not affecting the weather. He knew that he was running a grift. He knew that he was using coincidence as skill and luck as leverage, and by God, he had one target. Give me that 10 grand. He's just a rainmaker. But if he thought he made it rain, if he's a true believer, then that means after the entire city of San Diego had flooded, after there was untold devastation, after dozens of people lost their lives, believing that he was the force that caused that, he chose to release more smoke into the air. And after all of that, he asks for $10,000 and fights for it. Which one of these Hatfields are we more comfortable with? A con man who wanted 5 figures, or a true believer playing God? Of course, we'll never know. Mystery of that question is why we're still talking about it today. It's why, in the lead to the Los Angeles Times article in 1990, when they talked about some fly-by-night twin-engine pilot seeding the clouds, the opening line compared him to Charles Hatfield. The story of Charles Hatfield is inextricably tied to the DNA of a major American city. And depending on how you want to squint, he's either a mad genius comfortable with dozens drowning for a 5-figure payday, but I'll sleep better at night if I just think of him as the world's greatest con. This episode of World's Greatest Con was written by Will Saddleberg and me, Brian Brushwood, your humble host. The show is executive produced by Justin Robert Young, production and research by Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. Credit to The Wizard of Sun City, the strange true story of Charles Hatfield, the Rainmaker who drowned a city's dreams by Gary Jenkins, which, along with contemporary news articles, retrospectives, and archive video, made for the bulk of our research. Support us directly and keep the world's greatest cons coming by heading on over to patreon.com/greatestcon. You'll get an ad-free feed, early access to all the good info, and behind-the-scenes extras. Of course, you've got questions, and we want to answer as many as we can, so hit us up at worldsgreatestcon@gmail.com.
Dog and Pony Show audio.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Yeah.
Here we go.
We did it. We did the thing.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. I'll be happy. I know somebody was asking for the music. I'll send you what you guys want.
Yeah.
Just
hit
go
us
to
up,
worldsgreatestcon
worldsgreatestcon@gmail.com.
Yeah. And then otherwise, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/greatestcon is where you need to go for that. Patrons got that on Saturday, by the way. They this is old news for them. It just went out on the free feed today.
And also, yes, we interrupted it, but man, I don't understand how anybody listens to this with ads. Shame on everyone who's listening with ads, letting the story get all corrupted. What are you doing?
Just saying, free feed has 4 ad slots. Pre-roll, post-roll, and 2 in the middle. It's very simple to go to our Patreon and get it ad-free. But yeah, there we go. Thank you guys for listening, and we will hopefully be back sooner rather than later for another one of these.
No, we already got 2 in the hopper.
Yeah.
Cooking on other bigger and better. Thank you very much to everybody for joining us live. Tell your friends. We'll see you for office hours tomorrow.
See ya.
So long, gang.